Let's talk about self-discipline. We all know the process. You realize how lazy you've become and you decide life would be better if you were more disciplined. So you write down a list of incredible goals, an epic new schedule to keep to, but then, before long, you slip up, procrastination sets in, and soon you're back to your old habits, your old self. So I've come to realize that approaches like this to self-discipline, they just don't work. And I want to share something in this video that I haven't seen many people share here on YouTube and more generally on this topic. So in today's video, I'm going to pull back the curtain and share those insights, because without them, like me, you'll be stuck in a prison of self-sabotage and frustration for the rest of your life. Now, most people, when they approach topics like this, they split themselves into two. You've got person A, which is your current self, and you've got person B, version 2.0, this future aspirational self that you want to become. Now, on the surface, this sounds totally fine and reasonable, but here's the catch. Our ideas of who we think we are and who we think we should be are being increasingly hijacked for profit in something I call the great dopamine gold rush. And not only is it hindering our ability to master habits and create good productive routines and things like that, but it's also affecting our mental health and well-being. With the advent of new tools, gadgets, and services, we're now living in an age of abundant options, making it harder than ever to stay focused and build self-discipline. Every time we flick through posts on Instagram, watch something on Netflix, or take a bite of delicious food, our brain is flooded with hit after hit of that neurochemical dopamine. This evolutionary pathway is the key to controlling our urge for instant gratification and immediate reward or pleasure. The problem is, this pathway is being hacked into as big companies all over the world wage a war to keep our attention and send us our next hit of dopamine. The tools we were meant to be using are now using us as they cash in on this manufactured system of addiction. This calculated bombardment is so constant and vast that it can feel utterly paralyzing and even induce anxiety. The terrifying truth is that we are slowly surrendering control of our senses and ourselves as we hurry and haste to consume and do it all, not realizing that this need and this feed, it never ends.
But the scary thing is that high social media use is almost everyone I know. It's my friends, it's my family, my colleagues. Maybe you simply cannot focus because your notifications are going off the handle and you need to check. That need eventually becomes addiction.
All right, so what does this have to do with mastering self-discipline for lazy people like us? We need to understand the situation, the context of what we are living in, and also understand the human psychology and brain ourselves so that we can work in alignment with the way we are wired. And to do this, I want to introduce you to the work of Dr. Steve Peters, who came up with something known as the Chimp model to help us understand how we can manage our emotions and ultimately master self-discipline. Okay, so in his book, Dr. Steve Peters talks about how our brains have three distinct parts, which make up our psychological mind. First, you've got the chimp, and then you've got the human, and then the computer. And the chimp is basically an analogy for the limbic system, the part of your brain that's responsible for the most primal emotions and behaviors. And then you've got the human, the prefrontal cortex. Now, the chimp, it only thinks in black and white. It doesn't have room for thinking in nuance. It also has this jungle mentality where it thinks in a very irrational way and it can't be reasoned with or controlled with sheer willpower alone. Now, the thing with the chimp is that it always wants more. This part of your brain is never satisfied with just one chocolate or one episode on Netflix. It always wants immediate gratification. And here's the kicker. The chimp part of the brain, the limbic system, it responds faster to situations than the human, which is the rational and analytical part of your brain. And so when you're faced with a choice like choosing a piece of fruit or a chocolate bar, the chimp takes over and it chooses the thing that's going to give it the most immediate instant gratification and that critical dopamine hit. And that's exactly the part of the brain that these companies are trying to exploit. The other thing to bear in mind is the third part of the psychological mind, which is the the computer. And this is basically the part of the brain that is responsible for your mindset. And it's filled with two things: pre-programmed gremlins or bugs in the system. So this could be your limiting beliefs about you being lazy or unmotivated. And it's also filled with autopilot systems. These are positive mindsets, things that you want to believe, like I would like to develop a growth mindset. If I work hard, then I will achieve the success that I'm seeking. And so to come back to the initial point I made here, it's not you. It's your chimp that lacks self-discipline and structure. And the chimp is an amazing servant, but a terrible master. So let's have a think about how this works in a day-to-day example. Let's say you're sitting down in front of the computer and you're doing some work, and suddenly you get hungry. And so you walk down to the fridge and you see this chocolate bar or this piece of fruit. Which one are you going to choose? A useful question that I like to ask myself is, am I in chimp mode, human mode, or do I want to activate my computer? When I'm in chimp mode, I'm more likely to choose the chocolate bar or something like that. But when I'm in human mode and I'm being more rational and analytical, I might choose the thing that is filled with delayed gratification. I might choose the piece of fruit. The most primitive parts of our brain tell us that safety lies in familiarity. This is shown in the work of John Bowlby, who looked at attachment theory. And the same is true of your chimp. Your chimp wants comfort, it wants safety. So don't let anyone master your chimp through the addictive, dopamine-filled apps and notifications that are out there. Learn to manage that chimp for yourself and also get to know your chimp and the way that it chooses to behave. The challenge now isn't information, it's the information we choose to ignore and the information that we choose to act on. One of my favorite ways to manage my chimp has been over the years to create a discomfort ritual where I do something every single day, like cold showers, that gets me out of my comfort zone and helps me to get used to being uncomfortable and not choosing the gratification in the moment, but making a vote for that future version of me that I want to become. And one of the ways that you can create autopilot routines in the computer part of your brain is through a simple thing we all know, which is habits. Building predetermined routines and habits that you follow, regardless of where your motivation fluctuates. The other thing that I want to stress here is that toxic positivity and hustle culture will tell you your output determines your self-worth, but ultimately, whether you're lazy, productive, whatever, you have value inherently regardless of what you do and what you get done. So live mindfully, be free, and manage your chimp. Click here to watch my other video about self-discipline. Peace.